All right, 9-5. So we can solve. We've been looking at equations that are like ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. We've solved these a few different ways. Do you guys remember any ways we've solved them so far? In the last chapter we just looked at, we did like graphing, where you could graph it and see where it crosses the x-axis. We've solved these with factoring, like magic x and greatest common factor, things like that. Today I'm going to show you a new method. It's called the quadratic formula. You've probably done this before. Good. I'm glad you remember. Anybody know what the quadratic formula actually is?
Yes.
What is it?
X equals negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac of b.
Bravo. Do you have to memorize this?
No.
No? Not if it's in your notes. Would it help you if you memorize it? Maybe.
Yes.
Probably it would. Yeah!
We learned this last year.
And we're doing it again.
Wait, why
Yay.
do we learn stuff that we already learned? Isn't this like review thing?
I mean, kinda. Sorta.
Just 3 hours.
Okay, there's 2 examples. I'd like you to write these down. 2 to start with, anyway. So the rule for these is that it needs to be equal to what?
0.
0. But the problem is, what is mine equal to right now?
3.
So what should you do?
Minus 3.
Good. So my new equation would be good job. Oops. Hey there. Okay, once we have this, we need A, B, and C. A, B, and C. What's the A value?
1.
What's B?
2.
What's C?
Negative 3.
Good. Our next step is to plug this into the equation up here. So I'll have x equals negative. The negative stays there, and we're going to plug in for 2. For B, we're going to plug in a positive 2. That negative is here because of the negative in the equation. Negative 2 plus and minus the square root of b squared. What was b?
2.
2 squared minus 4
Times 1
times 1 times negative 3 all over 2 times 1. Okay, there's 3 pieces to simplify here. The first piece maybe Mr. Is she in Mr. A's room? 100? Okay. So the first part's right here. That's part 1. That's a 1. You can't read it. The second part to simplify is the stuff underneath the square root. I'm not highlighting the square root. Part 2. And then part 3 is the denominator. Up here?
Yeah.
1. It's just part 1.
Oh, like part 1?
Yeah, part 1, part 2, part 3, to simplify. You don't really have to write that down. I'm just trying to kind of model for you what I'm thinking. Yeah?
On our homework, do you want us to just write the answer to that?
Yes.
Or do you want us to write like that whole equation?
Here's, I'll show you. This is what I want you to write. Yes, I want to see the whole equation.
Oh.
I want you to plug in the whole equation. I need to see this step. After that, the negative 2 is just negative 2, so that's the first part. Then the plus and minus, I want you to leave the square root there. And then I want you in your calculator to type in the stuff underneath the square root. So I would type in 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3. Yep, 16. So it's the square root of 16 over 2. That's the next step I want to see. What is the square root of 16?
4.
4. Negative 2 plus and minus 4 over 2.
Split.
What was that?
Split them.
And then you split them up. So I'm going to have one where it'll be x equals negative 2 plus 4 over 2. And one where it's x equals negative 2 minus 4 over 2. The difference here is one's a plus, one's a minus. So x equals negative 2 plus 4. I'm going to do that in my calculator in parentheses. Negative 2 plus 4 divided by 2. You can do that all in one step in your calculator if you type it in like I just did right there. With the top in parentheses divided by 2. If you don't do the parentheses and it's just negative 2 plus 4 over 2, it's going to give you the wrong answer. You need to have the parentheses on the top. So on the top, it will be negative 2 plus 4 divided by 2. Gives me 1. And then if I wanted to do negative 2 minus 4 over 2, it gives me negative 3. That's it. So that was a nice one. I want to go back to example 2. We're going to try this one out again. What's A? Question?
Well, no, I don't.
Okay. What's A?
1.
B is?
6.
C is?
Negative 2.
Good. So my equation is x equals negative b. Now here's where you got to be careful. It says negative b, so I have a negative from the equation, but then I'm going to plug in parentheses, negative 6. So it's negative, negative 6. It looks kind of weird. Plus and minus the square root of, make sure you put in parentheses if you're writing, you should look up here for a second. It should be negative 6 in parentheses with the squared after it.
Do you have to put the negative 6?
If you know it's positive, no. Minus 4, I have to squeeze this in here, times 1 times negative 2. Oh, I'm out of space. Sorry. All over 2 times A is 1. So negative negative 6 becomes good. Plus and minus the square root of, let's do the stuff in the middle. It'll be negative 6 in parentheses squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 2. That's what I crammed in here on the side that you can't read. So it's plus and minus the square root of 44. All over 2 times 1? 2. Here's where I'm going to be nice to you. And since we're so pressed for time, and since I'm going to teach it to you in the next chapter, I am going to allow you to write this as a decimal. Next year, you will not be allowed to do that. And even next chapter, you're not going to be allowed to do that. So for this only, since we're just trying to focus on some other skills, I am okay with writing like 6 plus and minus the square root of 44. The square root button is second right here. Square root of 44. 6.6. We're rounding to the nearest tenth. That's what the homework asks for. 6.6 over 2. So we could split that up. And we're going to get 6 plus 6.6 over 2. And 6 minus 6.6 over 2. So we get x equals, parentheses, 6 plus 6.6 over 2 gives me 6.3. If I do it again, 6 minus 6.6 over 2 gives me negative 0.3. So far we've done 2 examples. In the first one we got a nice square root. We got a perfect square under the radical. In the second one we did not get a perfect square under the radical. It's okay because we just did decimals. Okay, I want to show you 2 other examples. Sorry, there's so much writing all over this. Here's one of them. What do you have to do first for this one?
Oh my gosh. Do you minus the 16?
You could do it either way. So which way do you want me to do it? You could either subtract 16x squared, or you could add this one over and subtract that one over. Okay, let's add the 1 to both sides. And are you okay if I subtract 8 in the same step? Minus 8x minus 8x. So we would have 16x squared minus 8x plus 1 equals 0, because these are going to cancel. A, B, and C. What's A? B? C? 1. If we plug this in, you will have x equals negative, and then it's going to be negative 8. There's that double negative again. Plus and minus the square root of, yes, make sure the negative 8 is in parentheses, just like that. Minus 4 times 16 times 1. Some of you are working on it, you see it. Okay, we'll keep going, hang on. X equals negative 8 is positive 8. Plus and minus the square root of, I'm going to type this in, negative 8 squared minus 4 times 16 times 1 is 0 over 32. What's the square root of 0?
0.
It is. And when you split this up, you'd have 8 plus 0 over 32. And then we'd have 8 minus 0 over 32. What's 8 plus 0? 8 over 32. It's okay, you were thinking times. 8 over 32 is a fourth, or 0.25. What's 8 minus 0? 8 over 32. So it's the same.
What is the answer?
0.25. So x is 0.25. There's only one solution. Here's what this means. If I graph this, it would be 16x squared minus 8x plus 1. You don't have to graph this with me. Just look at the picture. Where's the vertex? How many times does it touch the x-axis? One time. There is one solution. Kind of cool, huh? On the first one that we did, I should have shown you this picture when we started. If I graphed that first one, it was x squared plus 2x minus 3. How many times did that one cross? This is the first one. Twice. Right here and right here. And if I checked my table, the zeros of the graph are at 1 and at, oops, I'm going the wrong way, negative 3. And that's what I got for my solutions, 1 and negative 3. This tells you the zeros. It's just a way to do it by hand instead of by graphing. Kind of cool. One last example. If you printed my notes, I messed it up. So you'd have to just scribble it out and write this new equation. Yes, it does happen. Thank you for reminding me.
Oh no, she was talking about something else.
Oh. I thought you were saying that I just messed it up so often. Gotcha. Good save.
Wait, that's the same thing over here.
It's true, though. I do make a lot of mistakes. I'm not ashamed of that. I mean, I kind of am, but... It is the same?
Yeah.
Oh, good. When did you print them?
Third hour.
Oh, good. Yeah, I fixed it during second hour. So. That's good. Cool. All right, so now if we solve this thing, what's A?
1.
What's B?
-9.
What's C?
21. Is this like different from any of the other ones?
Yes. Oh, you'll see. You do need to write it down. This is probably the most important one. So I'd have x equals negative 9 plus and minus square root of negative 9 squared minus 4 times 1 times 21 all over 2 times 1. What's negative 9? Positive 9. Plus and minus the square root of negative 9 squared minus 4 times 1 times 21. Negative 3 over 2. What's the square root of negative 3? Type it in. Type it in.
Mine was supposed to go to.
It says error.
Good. It should say error.
Solution.
Second square root -3. Error. Non-real answer. You can't take the square root of a negative number. So that means this is no solution. If it was going to be a graph, what does a graph of a parabola with no solution look like?
Error.
Not a line. That wouldn't be a parabola if it was a line. Not touching the x-axis. So it's going to look something kind of like that. Do you guys need this still? Okay. You're almost there. You're doing great. One more thing I need to show you is something called the discriminant. So I'm showing you the first page of the notes because I want to point something out. This part right here, under the square root, what I'm highlighting and that you're looking at, that is what we call the discriminant. So I'm going to write up here where it says discriminant. And what's the discriminant?
B squared minus 4AC.
B squared minus 4AC. That is the discriminant. On your test, you're going to have a multiple choice question that says, what's the discriminant? And that's the answer. You won't get it wrong if you have it on your notes. They are hard. I know, I'll give it to you. They're tricky. There are 3 possible outcomes of the discriminant. There's a positive outcome. There is a 0 outcome. Or there's a negative. Positive, 0, or negative. We just did all of those on what I just showed you. So up here, we got the discriminant was what in this equation? 16. Is 16 positive or negative or 0? Positive. How many answers did we get? 2. So whenever the discriminant is positive, you will always have 2 solutions. And your graph is always going to look something sort of like this, where it's going to cross it twice. When we got 0 as our discriminant, up here the discriminant was 0. It's the thing underneath the square root. How many solutions did we have? 1. So when the discriminant is 0, it's 1 solution. That's confusing because your discriminant answer is 0, but there's 1 solution. A lot of times people want to say, oh, it was 0, so there's no solution. That's not right. 0 discriminant means 1 solution, which means we'd have a graph, I don't know, maybe something kind of like this. We're just going to touch 1 time. These pictures are going to show up in multiple choice on your test. Like it might say in the words, like, which one of these pictures shows a graph with a discriminant that's negative? And it's going to show you pictures of graphs, and you have to pick which one. You're looking at the x-axis. How many times does it touch the x-axis? When it's negative, that was the last example we just did. My discriminant was -3, and we said, yes, there is no solution. If it's no solution, it would look something Kind of like this, where it never touches the x-axis. So this has 2 solutions, 1 solution, no solution. Positive, 0, or negative. Three examples and then we're going to be done. Of course. I don't do these for my health. It's up to you. If you don't want to, don't do it. But then on your test, when you're like, I don't know what the answer is, I mean, like, check your notes. State the discriminant, then find the number of real solutions. So here's our first example. What do I need to do first? Subtract 4. (12x² plus 5x minus 4 equals 0). This time we're only finding the discriminant, not the whole quadratic formula. So we're just going to do, you still need A, B, and C. So what's A? B is? C is? Good. So the discriminant, what's the equation of the discriminant?
5 squared minus 4.
So B squared minus 4AC. So my B is 5 squared minus 4 times 12 times negative 4. In my calculator, I have 5 squared minus 4 times 12 times negative 4. I get 217. The question that you're asking yourself, I'm even going to write this off to the side. Ask yourself, is it positive, 0, or negative? Is 217 positive, negative, or 0? Positive. So that means it has 2 solutions. So my answer is the discriminant is 217 and it has 2 solutions, and then you're done. On the next one, what do we got to do first?
Plus 4.
Good.
Is this one the same?
No. 2x squared plus 3x plus 4. So A is 2, B is 3, C is 4. So the discriminant is B squared minus 4AC, so I'd plug in 3 squared minus 4 times 2 times 4. Three squared minus 4 times 2 times 2. Oh, times 4. Whoops, I messed that up. 3 squared minus 4 times 2 times 4. What do you get? So the question you're asking yourself, is it positive, negative, or 0? It's negative. So then how many solutions does it have?
1.
If it's negative, no solution. So I got your chart with you. Last one. What do you do first?
Can you minus 12x?
You can,
Add 18?
yes, minus 12x and add 18. So you have 2x squared minus 12x plus 18 equals 0. A is, B is, C is. Discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So careful with the b. It needs to be negative 12 in parentheses squared minus 4 times 2 times 18. Negative 12 squared minus 4 times 2 times 18. 0. How many solutions does it have? For the 0 discriminant, how many solutions? 1. That's it.